Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Busy Playing Something. I'm your host for this evening, yet again, Joshua LaRosa, joined by, hmm, where are we landing on it? You're not sick anymore, so the
No,
cured one, how are you?
I guess I can be the cured one. Yes, I'm good. No,
You're alive, you survived the man flu. I feel like we're wearing similar colours today. Unplanned.
I'm wearing a yellow hoodie. Yellow, Animal Crossing. Gotta love it.
This is like I don't know, vanilla? Sephiroth
Vanilla,
t-shirt,
or
of
like a
course.
cream or something.
Like a cream, that's the word I'm looking for, but I am wearing the
Vanilla.
Sephiroth t-shirt. So look at us repping our video games. You got the Fallout 76 hat,
Yep, 100%.
mate. We've been selling those for 50 cents back in the day, I'm sure.
Oh, they were 100%. I think I got this hat for about $3.50. It was like half price, half price, half price, and I was like, yeah, all right.
Mm.
Like I'll add it to the pile. And now the hat's actually worth a little bit because you can't get them anywhere. And 76 has started to become a little bit more of a popular online game.
That's the thing. Sometimes it's just better to hold on to things. But yes, we are busy playing something. Video game podcast, an Australian video game podcast, nonetheless. Not too many of those going on. And let me tell you, the conversations we're having here are some of the best I've seen online. Let me tell you, not biased at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Where can
But
you hear
this
those conversations?
Oh, great segue. So you can find us on YouTube, busy playing something. You can look back. We've got a few episodes that have gone live. We've done things like go through the Xbox showcase last week. We've spoken about the state of play, what we would do if we were running Xbox, so on and so forth. Podcast feeds as well. So Spotify and Apple Podcasts for the time being. Waiting for the Google Podcast and YouTube Music thing to tick over next month, and then we will be there. So check us out. Also on Twitter at busy playing something, at Joshua LaRosa for myself, and at Holly DePrawn. So you can find us there and tell us not to disrespect PS3
Yeah.
specifically.
And also for those
and
of you
find
at
us.
home who don't know, I am Sean.
Did I not say that?
You did not
Or
say
just
my name.
figure it out. You can guess. Every episode, I'll introduce you with a different name, and then we'll just
Figure
see
it out.
what sticks. But we've got a pretty exciting episode to go through. So they came up with the idea. Obviously, we had the showcase, state of play, Jeff Keighley Touch Me Awards, and what we wanted to do was there was a lot of things announced and shown, and we spoke about a few things that were coming in 2025 and beyond. But what we wanted to do was focus in on the games that are launching into 2024, what we're planning on playing. So basically, journey mapping the remainder of 2024 and the games we want to play. And we'll look at the some of those key games that are set for 2024 that don't have firm release dates yet. So of course, any point, anything we just said and say can change, and games get delayed and get pushed all the time. So you know what? Let's jump straight into the month of June. Now, Sean, we're obviously recording here in freezing Melbourne on the 17th. So not too much time left in the month of June. Was there anything that was standing out to you, talking about the last 10 days of the month?
Yeah, there's two games that I wanted to give a shout out to. One of them would be Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which comes out on the Switch on June 27th. So Luigi's Mansion was one of the launch titles of the GameCube. Luigi's Mansion 2, I think it was called Dark Moon, and it came out on the 3DS. I feel like this is one of those games that people know of but never really played. So if you haven't played the original one, or if you haven't even picked up the 3DS version, I'd say this would be one to look at. They did refine a couple of the different mechanics from the first one. It feels a little bit more fuller, and there's a little bit more to do. So I would recommend that one. The other one I did want to mention as well, which I know my mother might be interested in, is Riven. So Riven is...
You're going to say Elden Ring.
No,
So your mum
wasn't. No,
Elden Ring?
No. Oh, she'll look at Elden Ring, but she won't touch it, I reckon. No, Riven is... so it's the remake, and this is of the creators of Myst. So one of those adventure puzzle games, almost like a point-and-click game. And so that one's coming to Quest 2, Quest 3, PC, and Mac on the 25th of June. So they're the two that catch my eye, but I feel like there's something that's catching your eye, Josh.
Yeah, look, I want to give a shout out to Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. I had a fantastic experience playing Elden Ring, but I am very much of the camp of one and done with the Souls game. In terms of there's such a experience, and they can be grindy and they can be difficult. And you get to the end of those games, and I feel very content and not really wanting to go back. So with Shadow of the Erdtree coming out June 21st, like I'm in that boat. Like I'd love to play it, but the idea of stepping back into Elden Ring and continuing on, and it's kind of a little daunting. Like I'm just not in the mood for it at this point in time. Maybe if I ever went back and replayed Elden Ring from start, I could go straight into Shadow of the Erdtree and continue it on. I'm at the point. I had finished the game, but I'm at the point where I think I need to defeat Moog to unlock the DLC. So besides that, I've done Melania, I've done all the really hard boss fights, but I don't know, jumping back into to Elden Ring right now, just not really feeling it. But definitely a big one.
I was going to say, are you part of the 38% of players that have defeated the boss that unlocks the DLC?
So if I remember correctly, you need to defeat 2 bosses. So I've defeated one of them, and Moog is the second one you need to defeat. And I haven't done that. Okay. But like I said, I've done some of the hard, like Melania is much harder than Moog. So I've progressed to the point where I probably could go back and defeat him. I don't want to say easily because it's a Souls game, but I could probably do it. But that's a daunting idea, right? Stepping back into a world where you haven't played the game since 2022 or whatever it was, and then being kicked into the teeth a few times until you pick up all the controls and remember how to play and all that. For me, I would have preferred maybe a kind of like a Miles Morales to Spider-Man type thing where it's like its own separate adventure and I can start nearly from scratch, and maybe you can, boost the character up and have him start stronger and all those different things. But the idea of going back into that world is just not for me for the time being. But like I said, maybe if I ever go back and replay the whole game, then maybe. Elden Ring's one of the greatest games of all time. Like it's on that list. So it's not like no diss, okay? No diss to all the FromSoft fans.
I find it a little bit funny that, only 30% of players have actually defeated the bosses to be able to unlock the DLC. And I remember reading, I'm not sure which website it was, but it was a major news publishing website. And they actually mentioned in their preview of the DLC that none of the staff have actually played it because none of them have been able to unlock it.
Well, but in saying that, the completion rates for Elden Ring as a whole, like just the main game, is quite high. And even the platinum rate for a game like Elden Ring is quite high. So there is a lot of people that have surprisingly had played. I think they announced 25 million copies of the game it sold. Like, it's incredible. And a lot of those people had played it. Like, if you think about it, 36, what did you say, 36%?
Yeah, 36, 38%.
That's actually nearly a high number for completion rateage. And that's, Moog, I know one of the bosses, Moog, being optional and not so easy to find. So I actually think 36% is quite high. I don't know about locking it behind that is the right move, because I can imagine someone go, Elden Ring DLC, and they purchase it and they're like, wait, I can't access any of it. What's going on? So, it's From Software. They can kind of get away with whatever they want. But let's move into July. Is there any games in that first first half of the month that standing out to something that you want to be picking up and playing day one?
Day one, probably not. I've had a look at a lot of what July has to offer. And besides maybe Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, after watching the Xbox showcase, I think that's probably the first one that really comes to mind. Everything else, I'm not really too fussed about it. I feel like July is probably going to be my time where I can catch up on, other previous games. But Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, which comes to PS5, Xbox, PS4, Xbox One, PC, that comes out July 18th. I'm interested in looking at that one, but I want to see more of it. I don't want to... This isn't the sort of game that I'm going to purchase day one to play. I want to be able to have a look at a little bit more gameplay rather than just the reveal trailer that we got, just to see if it's really my cup of tea. And if it is, I'll get it. If not, I'm happy to skip July, I'll work on my backlog, and then I'll wait for August.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be Souls adjacent. I wouldn't say it's a Souls-like, and it is available on Game Pass, so I know you're an avid Game Passian, so at least it will be there. Flintlock was the one I had highlighted as well, and for me, it probably just comes down to how the game's received. Like I said last week, with a lot of Souls games, it's about how it feels on the stick. A wrong delay in parry or a block or a dodge or whatever, if it feels wrong in those types of games, the game's basically unplayable, because that's really the key to that style of game. So I'm interested. It looks like a combination of Souls-like features without being a Souls game. We spoke about last week about a Souls-like versus a Souls-light. To me, this looks less Soulsy than even a Souls-light. Like, it looks like it's more of a character action game, but has those Souls elements kind of layered on top of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Flintlock was the one I had highlighted, and I agree. I think July overall for me is a bit of a quiet month. But let's jump into August, an important month for a few reasons. Firstly, my birthday is the 1st of August, in which I'll be turning 30, and my son's the 31st of August, where he's turning 1. So there's that. I'll start off this time. The first one I wanted to call out is Black Myth Wukong. Not Wulong, not Wing Chong. Black Myth Wukong, because I was getting my Kongs and Woes and Wongs mixed up last week. But this game looks incredible. Actually, previews had just come out from some of the big publishers. Some of the bigger media outlets, IGN, GameSpot, and the others. This looks really good. So, for those who don't know, it's a PlayStation 5 and PC exclusive at this point. There's a bit of controversy around this game not launching on Xbox, and it's unclear as to why that is, whether that's locked behind maybe, I don't know, optimization behind Series S, or ability to kind of publish on multiple consoles at the same time. They are a new studio or an up-and-coming AAA developer. Studios out of China. So like I said, PS5, PC, August 20th. It is a Souls, again, a Souls adjacent game. This is probably more a Souls light, so it definitely has a more focus on dodging rather than perfect parry. So if you look at a game like Sekiro or Liza P, they're very reliant on that perfect parry. Where this is more along the lines of maybe even like a Dark Souls, where you're dodging through attacks. And it looks beautiful, running on PS5, PC. It's based on, obviously, the old Chinese story, Journey to the West. So for those Ninja Theory fans that ever played Enslaved Odyssey to the West, same storyline in terms of concept, I guess. But this is a lot more traditional, and obviously being made by a Chinese developer, it's going to be a bit more steeped in history. But what are your thoughts? Is this one you had your eyes on?
Not really. Like I'm still not. As I mentioned last week, I'm still not really too sold on the Soulsborne style of games. I'm not quite there. You've got to get into a mindset with some of these sorts of games, and I'm not quite there. I'd rather relax a little bit more when I'm playing games rather than stressing myself out trying to be better. I'm not quite at that stage yet, but it does look interesting. I feel like there's definitely a lot more games over the last few years after the success of your Dark Souls and your Bloodborne, leading into your Elden Ring, and now now after these development phases of 3 to 5 years, we're starting to get more of these sorts of games that kind of fit into that same category, that want to not only continue that play style, but try and change and adapt and carve their own path out of it. So
Yeah. So, geez, knocking the microphone. What am I doing?
it's all right.
I'm excited. I agree, and we're definitely seeing a lot of these games coming out of China, right? We spoke about Phantom Zero last week, or the week before for the state of no, it was last week for the Summer Show Fest. There was that Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, which was at the Xbox show. That was the other Wu Chang. Again, a lot of these Chinese developed action games, and I would agree with you. I never had played a Souls game for the longest time. In terms of release, had missed Dark Souls and Demon Souls, obviously Dark Souls, even into Bloodborne. I haven't played Bloodborne yet. I'm one of those weirdos that's still waiting for a PS5 port. But you got to start. I would start with like the adjacent games, and why I say that is I definitely think there is an addictive nature to the style of game beyond the difficulty. So what I mean by that is the level design, for one, where it's kind of a 3D Metroidvania where you make your way through a map, and the map kind of loops in on itself, and then you unlock, you might walk through a door and you go, oh, I'm back where I started, and it kind of loops in that way. You got the bonfires, you're leveling up. For me, like, if you want something that's in that vein, that's perhaps not as big as like an Elden Ring, I would start with Lies of P. It's definitely more linear, and even a game like Black Myth Wukong looks to be that, where it's not small scale so much, but more linear in design. But that's a conversation for a different day. Anything else standing out in August that you wanted to talk about?
So this
Cat Quest 3, perhaps.
Potentially. Actually, I know. I think I know one of the developers on the Cat Quest series, so I always keep an eye on them. There are two games that stick out for me that I wanted to bring attention to. The first one is Star Wars Outlaws. Comes out August 30. This isn't necessarily a day one purchase for me. I still want to see what's going on, especially price wise for these sorts of games. Any sort of Star Wars like a single player game similar to your Jedi Fallen Order, these sorts of games. I'm thinking, okay, is this going to be worth my time in terms of money wise? Because if this game is going to be 15 hours and I'm paying $120 for it, I don't think that's worthwhile for me unless I was to like finish it in the first week or so and then return it. So, do I want to really push myself to play and finish this game? Is it going to be a little bit more open world where I want to wait until there is that price drop and then jump into it? So that's my thinking behind Star Wars Outlaws. It looks interesting. It's an interesting concept. What about you? Have you got your eyes on this whatsoever, or are you kind of like, you might play it next year?
I'm not the biggest, as you know, biggest Star Wars fan. I actually enjoy the games more than I enjoy movies, TV shows of Star Wars. So this is being developed out of Massive, so it's the Divisions team. So it's a good team. You were saying, do I wait and buy this day one or get it at a discount? It's an Ubisoft game, so it'll probably be discounted.
By Christmas.
They seem to discount things fairly quickly, even earlier, I would say, into September even. Again, this is one I am interested in. Like, it's ticking a lot of boxes, like semi-open world, third-person action. It's like, yep, and then it's like, but it's Star Wars. But if this tells a genuine story that's intriguing and exciting, like, I love the Fallen Order Jedi games. So, and again, not a big Star Wars massive fan. So, if it does that, I will pick it up and play it. But this is one I'll probably wait for reviews and just general consensus on it.
The other game that I do want to mention is the fact that Kenna Bridge of Spirits is coming to Xbox on August 15.
I had that one highlighted for you because I would recommend playing that. If you like, South of Midnight, which is the game that was shown at the Xbox showcase. How I said it's got like that similar feeling. I don't know if you remember me saying that. It's kind of giving me Kenna vibes.
Yep.
Pick this one up. I don't know. Is it coming to Game Pass? Is this one?
I don't believe so. But if it is, it's a no-brainer for me. But even still, I'm of the mindset where if it's going to come out on Xbox, a year, maybe even 2 years later.
No, much. Yeah, I think Kenna was 20.
I think it's 2022. Yeah, so I think it might be about 2 years or so. And if that's the case, I might actually just pick it up on PlayStation because
21.
21. There you go. It's 3 years old. I might pick it up on PlayStation purely because the price would be a hell of a lot cheaper than what it would be on Xbox.
I was going to say, yeah, that's probably the smart move, right? 100%.
And so I'm happy for these sorts of games to have the timed exclusive. And yeah, if it's a game you really want to play on the platform of your choice, by all means pick it up. But it's even better when it launches somewhere else because odds are it's going to be cheaper on that initial platform because it's already exhausted the players on there to an extent, and that's why it's coming over to other platforms. So Kenna Bridge of Spirits seems like it's the perfect PlayStation game to buy when it comes out on Xbox.
100%. 100%. For me, I had one other one that I wanted to highlight, something that I've actually pre-ordered, so I'm hoping it's good. Visions of Mana, coming out PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and PC, August 29th. So this is the first Visions or first Mana game I've played. I've actually downloaded the HD port of the previous one. I don't know if I'll make my way through it. So very similar to, I guess, Final Fantasy and Dragon Age. These games are, I guess, kind of the Mana series are a lot more linked to the previous games, but similar in the sense where you don't necessarily need to play the older games to understand the story and the lore and everything that's going on. So I've got this one pre-ordered. I'm still. If this comes out and the reviews are like bombing, I probably will cancel. But from the kind of release date trailer, which was about 3.5 minutes, I'm like, yeah, this is ticking a lot of boxes. It's again third person action JRPG, real time combat. So as long as it can tell a interesting story, which the concept seems really cool. Like your main character's basically on a journey with this female character who has to ultimately sacrifice herself to save the world. So I imagine throughout this JRPG, it's going to be quite a lengthy one. They're going to grow close, and then by the end, you're kind of wanting to know if she's going to make that sacrifice. It seems by the trailer that she wants to like live, like she's feeling like, this journey's been so fun. I don't necessarily want it to end. So if it tells like a genuine heartfelt story, Square Enix games have been really good lately, so I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, Visions of Mana, August 29th. I'll be picking that one up. Was there anything else in August that you wanted to touch base on?
Nothing really for me that's standing out. And the reason being is that I feel like with July and Xbox, the next couple of months, it's pretty lean for things that are interesting to me. Once it hits September, that's when things start to go up. That's where we start to pick up the pace a little bit in terms of how much money we're going to spend on new games.
Yeah, 100%. We'll jump into September, I guess, quickly. Anything to call out? World of Warcraft War Within for you PC nerds, August 26th. I think that's the other really big one. And of course, the Madden game, if you're into Madden NFL 25. But let's jump into September. Where do you want to begin?
All
What
right.
does September look like?
I'm going to start early September. I'm just going to work my way down. Age of Mythology Retold. I'm interested in this one coming to Xbox and PC on September 4th. Yes, it's on Game Pass. Yes, I'll give it a go. 100%. Love it. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I know that Josh, you will get bored and wait. But you won't get bored about this next game, which is coming September 6th.
Oh, yeah.
And that's Astrobot. Which
cannot wait.
I think this is probably going to be the first game, like from now onwards for this year, that I'll actually buy day one.
Yeah, Astrobot seems incredible. The previews are glowing. I think they've got something really special with Astrobot as a character. And it was kind of there with Little Big Planet and Sackboy where they had, the costumes to make them look like PlayStation characters, but
customization.
I mean, yeah, and not only that, it's the ability to celebrate PlayStation's history. That in a platformer that can rival a Mario game. Like some of the previews I'd heard kind of tied the game more closer to actually a Mario Galaxy and not so much like a more traditional 3D Mario game.
Mario World.
And yeah, like a Mario World. And man, like this game had me at hello. Like it was literally, did you like the last Astrobot game? Yeah. Do you like PlayStation stuff? Yeah. I'm there. So, a more expanded, full price 3D platformer, developed out of Japan, Team Asobo, who are, ex Sony Japan developers, obviously. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the history of Studio Japan. I could be here all day. But this is really exciting. So, again, I will stress this point to the PlayStation fans out there who, and the Xbox fans out there who care about PlayStation for whatever reason. Those who whinge, those who cry that all PlayStation make is sad dad simulators. Play Astrobot. Support Astrobot. If you're not there buying Astrobot, if the game's good, of course, which I'm dare to say it will be. If you're not supporting Astrobot and you're buying Last of Us for the 13th time, they're going to make more Last of Us remakes and remasters. So I'm not here to sell you on anything, but if you want more of these styles of games, send the message and buy it. If not, maybe buy Concord.
We're not even
But
talking
yeah,
about that. We've
Astrobots.
skipped right over Concord.
We did. Again, like I said, I think on Twitter, like they're doing the open beta in July. We'll see what comes from it. Ex Bungie devs, stranger things have happened.
Uh-huh.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
sure.
All right, September. We spoke about Astrobot. Anything else jumping out for you? I know you said there was a few in here.
Yeah, there's two more that really do jump out. One of them is going to make me wear the brown pants. Slender, The Arrival, coming to PlayStation VR2 on
Oof,
September
God, no.
13th. I don't know. I'm kind of tempted to be a little sickler for a horror game on VR just to really
No
feel it.
way.
I don't
No
know.
way.
I'm looking. It depends on price for me. If it's under 40, I reckon I'm there
Mm.
straight up. The other one I wanted to mention was Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. So
Yeah, that's just got announced pretty recently, right?
yes, and so this is an Xbox 360 PS3 game that's basically been, I'm going to say, remastered. PS5, Xbox, Switch, and PC on September 25. Unfortunately, it does fall in grand final week, so it's probably not going to get too much playthrough. But I'm happy that it's coming, and I'm probably going to pick this one up, considering that I think I used to have Lollipop Chainsaw on the 360, and I think I ended up getting rid of it because I was getting rid of games that I wasn't really playing much of. But now that it's coming remastered, I want to give it another go. It seems like one of those cult classics that you want to get involved with. But Josh, I'm guessing you've got a PC game on September 19 highlighted.
No. I was going to
No?
say the only other thing I'd call out as we step out of September, Stalker 2 coming out, Xbox Series and PC September 5th. I think God of War Ragnarok September 19th for PC.
Yep.
Probably the other two would call out, but not necessarily ones
Well, that was the one
I will be playing.
that second one was the one I mentioned.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Moving on. October. Interesting month. I just realized I'll be in Japan from the 1st to the 19th. So the two games I had highlighted on here I won't be playing at launch, but that's totally fine. Did you want to begin October? Or are you happy for me to start this
You
one?
can start if you got two lined up.
Yeah, I've got two. And it doesn't have two in the title, so I'm interested. Maybe one of those is ones that you're interested in. This one is a maybe, based on me absolutely loving the games that came before, and that's Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, PS5 series consoles, PC, October 11th. Now, little known fact, I like. I wouldn't say I'm a massive Dragon Ball Z fan. Let me step that back.
Yeah.
I am a Dragon Ball Z fan. I haven't watched Super, but
What?
any person of my age has a history with Dragon Ball Z. So from the Saiyan Saga all the way, so the original Dragon Ball Z.
I thought you were going to say from 9/11
onwards. So from the beginning of Z all the way through to the end of Z with the Buu Saga, I was there in the weeds. I was a Dragon Ball Z guy. In fact, I have vivid memories of my dad liking Dragon Ball Z. And those who don't know me, which most of you wouldn't, I am the nerd in the family. My dad is definitely not of the same ilk, and he loved Dragon Ball Z. Like, now I think about it, and he's like a gym guy, and I'm like, well, it's muscly dudes that are screaming to get stronger. Makes sense. But he would watch Dragon Ball Z with me every morning before school. It even got to the point where every time we would go to the shops, he would buy me a Dragon Ball Z toy. And I actually went to my parents probably about a month ago. Not that I haven't been in a month, but this was that time that I went. We went through my brother's wardrobe because I gave him a lot of my Dragon Ball Z stuff when he was little. Luckily, I kept all my Power Ranger stuff, and I'll show you. Maybe one day I'll show a photo of what that collection looks like. But he absolutely destroyed a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I played all the Budokai games, all the Tenkaichi games. So if this comes out and kind of reignites that same energy that those original games had, I would potentially pick this one up. Maybe not day one, maybe on a discount, which it probably will be discounted at some point. But yeah, Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero was the first one I wanted to call out.
Okay. A couple that I wanted to mention was so my manager at work and a couple of my co-workers are getting Starship Troopers Extermination. So it looks like we're going to be getting a team together to be able to play that. Sorry, I'm going to sneeze in a second. And then I was like, no, I'll turn the mic off. And nope, the sneeze isn't coming. It's great.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. The other ones that I wanted to mention are the ones later in the month. So Starship Troopers Extermination comes out October 11th, but then we've got 3 in a row. So we've got Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which comes out on literally everything except for Switch on October 25. We got Sonic and Shadow Generations, which comes out on everything including Switch on October 25. And we've also got Life is Strange Double Exposure, which is coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC on October 29. So this is where your September and your October, this is where we're starting to get into the big game season. Black Ops 6, we did see the reveal for the Xbox showcase, and it had its own little showcase afterwards. They're making a lot of changes to multiplayer, which is actually exciting me a little bit. Because I spent a lot of time in Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 online, prestiging, playing a lot. So I'm interested to see how this fares. But also I want to give a go at the campaign again. Sonic and Shadow Generations. Sonic Generations was good. I liked it. Now they've got Shadow in there, so now I really want to try it. And Life is Strange. I feel like it's one of those games that, if you're into one of those almost chilled thinking sort of semi-point and click games, then the Life is Strange games are actually really decent, especially if you're trying to figure things out and figure out the puzzles and the relationships between characters and all that. So they're probably my big 3 to finish off October. What about yourself, Josh? Any of those?
Yeah, look, out of those ones, I think Call of Duty I'll probably pick up on Game Pass PC. I'll subscribe for the month, play it, then unsubscribe. And that's not a diss towards Call of Duty or Game Pass. It's just I don't typically play a lot on PC. So
this is after you've subscribed for Stalker 2 in September. And
I'm not. No, I'll give Stalker a miss. And let's before I get yelled at by someone who doesn't know me, I gave the showcase a 10. I liked Hellblade 2. Check out youtube.com/busyplaying something. But yeah, I'll probably want to play the Black Ops campaign. Sonic Generations, I haven't actually played Sonic Generations, so this might be one I pick up at like Christmas time when December's usually a quieter month, and by then it will probably be relatively cheap. But I am somewhat interested in Sonic. But the one I had highlighted, and it would be remiss not to mention this even if it wasn't one, is Metaphor ReFantazio for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, PC, October 11th. This is obviously from Atlas, the team behind Persona. Now, I am somewhat of a new Atlas fan. The only Persona game I have played and I haven't finished is Persona 3 Reload, which is the remake that launched earlier this year. And whilst I enjoyed the game, the one thing I didn't connect with is the whole like real world Japanese teenagers in a dorm room type vibe, which is Persona.
You had a very different high school upbringing.
Yeah. And that's not a diss to Persona, because that is Persona, right? You're not going to like Persona if you don't like that stuff. So I just wanted to give it a try, and I really appreciated the combat system and the turn-based combat that is in Persona. Maybe 3 wasn't the best place to start, but it was the shortest of the 5 that are out there. Like Persona 5 is apparently like 100 plus hours. I hope the only thing that's going to deter me from playing this is perhaps its length, if it's going to be like a life commitment. But I will admit the tone, the fantasy world, I think we spoke about last week, like I'm not so much a massive fan of like comedy and fantasy together. I kind of like grounded dark fantasy. So this seems to be on the lighter side of that, but not light-hearted.
Yep.
And Persona games get pretty deep in terms of like tackling pretty deep themes, and some of the previews I've watched seem very positive. I like the idea. So apparently this has tethers to the real world. So in the game, the fantasy world. So let me step back.
Yep.
The world that they live in is our fantasy world, but to them, they have fantasy worlds where there's buildings with glass that are towers and all that. There's cars and things like that. So like the life we live now is their fantasy. And the enemies are called humans, even though they're monsters, right? They're called humans. So I think that there's like an interesting thing going on there. So I'm hoping, I know the combat's going to be great. I know the story will be great. I'm hoping that maybe the tone and setting is going to be what will hook me in. And there is something about playing their game that isn't a Persona game. Even though that they are separate, similar to similar to Final Fantasy and the others. Kingdom Hearts. What's Sora doing in my head? That was my goofy impression. I like that this is its own thing. It's new, and it seems to be addressing maybe some of the slower pace stuff that's in the old Persona games. So, like for instance, if you're going up against an enemy that's under-leveled, you can actually like attack it in real time and just kill it and level up that way, as opposed to like, hey, this is a weaker enemy, but I still have to go into a turn-based battle.
Yeah.
So I like that stuff. I'm sure the reviews are going to be great. Honestly, what's going to sell it is if it's like, and I don't expect this to be the case, not as long as Persona 5 in particular, because I think that's the longest. So we'll see.
So an 80-hour game is okay.
Pre-ordered.
An 80-hour game is okay.
Yeah, for this style of game, I would accept 80 hours. But I don't think that this is the case. Friend of the show, Vincent Candela, I remember him playing Persona 5, and I saw his save file. It was like 110 hours. I'm like, oh my God. And then he did it all again when the re-release of Persona 5 came out. I'm like, oh, no. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right.
The other one to call out that isn't one I'm interested in at all, but in terms of like calling out the bigger games of the month, and we'll see where this one lands, is Silent Hill 2 for PS5 and PC. Jury's still out on this one. We'll see if it comes out and it is a beloved remake or
cash grab.
I don't know. Bloober Team. I don't know why Konami went to... Anyway, it's another discussion. I don't know what... Yeah, God.
Moving on.
That had teams knocking down their doors. Like, you got Castlevania, you got... Anyway. November. Right. Only a few games coming out
so far
in the month of November so far. Again, we're going to go through games that are yet to have a firm release date that are set for 24. But let's start here. I'm sure this is the one that we're both interested in. It's going to be on the thumbnail, so I would assume so. And that's Assassin's Creed Shadows, launching for PS5, Xbox Series, PC, and Mac. Ubisoft love the Mac as well. November 15th. This is the first Assassin's Creed game I have been excited for since Black Flag. The last one I played was Valhalla. Yep.
So you skip Mirage.
Surprisingly, and because Mirage would have been more my style, being the shorter 20-hour experience. It's more old school Assassin's Creed. But that isn't the reason why I'm excited for this. I think the reason why I'm excited for this is because it's, first of all, the Japanese samurai kind of storyline is something that's been asked for since, I remember the conversations going on since Assassin's Creed 2, right? And I haven't played Assassin's Creed 2 in a very long time, but 2 Brotherhood and Revelations were like standout games for me. Like, I really enjoyed like Ezio Auditore de Frenzy or whatever his name was. It's been a while. It's been like
Ezio Auditore di Firenze.
Yeah, Requiescat de Pace.
Of Firenze.
Yeah, and I love Assassin's Creed 2. I don't know if I'd love it now, but I did love it at the time. So I am like a on-off again Assassin's Creed fan. But what sold me on this is really the setting, the gameplay looks exciting. Like having the split main leads isn't new to Assassin's Creed. Like it's been there since Syndicate, right?
Syndicate.
Look at me. But these characters seem very different in playstyles, right? So Yasuke being the more samurai kind of Ghost of Tsushima style gameplay, and I forget the other main character's name, the shinobi or the assassin.
Yep.
Plays more traditional Assassin's Creed in the shadows, no pun intended, stealth focused. So I don't know, but for some reason this one just seems different, and I'm excited to play it. They've mentioned that the world is the size of Origins, which is a good sign. not because Origins is small, but because they usually always say our map's like 3 times bigger than last year's game or whatever. I'm excited that they haven't gone bigger than Valhalla because that was ridiculous. But you're the Assassin's Creed mega fan, so you take it from here.
Yeah, well, you talk about map sizes. I still can't go over the fact of how big Odyssey is at the moment. Because I'm going back to that occasionally because it's now on Game Pass. So I try that occasionally. But if you haven't played Mirage, I'd recommend it. I 100%ed the game in 30 hours.
That's perfect. Yeah, maybe during these dry months I'll.
And that's 100%. That's all achievements. So there's like some extra stuff there as well, like extra goals. But like I feel like the achievements, that's enough for me to like put it away.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to Assassin's Creed Shadows. Not only do I get each one with the statues so I can attach them all to the other statues behind me, but I am looking forward to seeing 2 distinct styles of playing. The reason being is that they tried it in Syndicate. So they had Jacob and Evie Fry, the twins. The idea was that Jacob was a brute and Evie was stealth. Now, it got to the stage where people wouldn't use Jacob because there are some missions where you can use either of them, and there are some missions that are tailored to one or the other. And so you would play with that character. Like, you're kind of forced to play with them. So the Jacob ones ended up being going in places and like punching things up and that sort of stuff. There was a little bit of stealth, but not a lot. It was more brute force and getting friends in and like getting like hiring brawlers in and doing that sort of thing. Evie, when you got her master cape or master cloak, she could go invisible if she was staying still and crouching. So like she was very much the stealth element, and the game was arguably easier when you're playing and focusing as her. So that's where I'm intrigued to see how Shadows plays, because can you go through as a brute samurai and just beat everybody up and get through that way? Or would it be easier to go the stealth route? And to see what playstyle would actually work out, whether or not it's going to be, this mission for this character, this mission for this character, or you can just say, nope, I am playing purely as a samurai. Let's do every single mission that way. I'm interested to see whether or not they're going to mix it up and give you options or force you down a particular path.
That was going to be my question. Yeah. What do you feel about either or? Like, would you have a preference on that?
I feel like early game, you should be forced. Because early game, if the game pushes you in a direction where you learn how the samurai playstyle is, and then you learn how the assassin playstyle is, so you kind of get an idea for both, and then there comes a point where, the map opens up or whatever it is, and it's like, okay, now you can choose which pathway you want to go, and you can swap between or whatever it is. I think that would work best for the game, because it gives you a taste of both, and then you can decide. I feel like, I don't know, it's a type of game, and Ubisoft are the type of people where they might do that, where you get to choose which playstyle you want at the start of the game, or like you can do both, then you go do whatever you want, and then it gets to the finale, and then it's like, oh, by the way, the assassin is locked away, you need to play as the samurai to break her out. And if you've spent 60 hours playing as an assassin, and then all of a sudden you've got to play as the samurai to break her out, in a sense, I feel like that's going to degrade from how you've been playing the game and how you're used to it. So I'm not sure how they're going to play it through, but there's so many questions about it, and that's why it's so intriguing to see, how this game does eventually play out.
That's a good point, because the last thing you want is, like you said, you like one play style, you get to a point, that character gets captured or whatever, and then it's like you've got this other character that's under-leveled. So where I would expect it maybe to happen, maybe you're leveling up, like regardless of who you're playing, both characters are leveling up at the same time. But I do like the idea of forcing, I don't know, because that could probably blow up in their faces if players really don't want to play as one versus the other.
Yeah.
Like, they have to be both really exciting characters, but maybe they'll do it where it's like the main story missions play out, they're scripted, and you're like actively swapping in between them at different parts.
You have to be both.
Yeah, you're using Yasuke to break through the gates and open things up, or you're using the other character, who I should remember her name, maybe I'll fact check myself, but she, sneaks through the place, unlocks the door for you, and then you switch to Yasuke, and then you can go through the main gates, and then blah, 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 blah. I like that. I like if they did that, and then the open world, you can mix and match and play whoever you want, because they're going to have the typical Ubisoft camps where you're going in and taking everyone out. I think that's fine where it's like, play, if you want to barge through the front gate, do that. If you want to sneak in and take everyone out stealth, do that. But I also like the idea of, for main story missions, have it where it's scripted. Not scripted as in like quick time events, scripted in terms of like, you need to play this character to do this, to activate this, to unlock the door for this character to do that. And then that way you could really get smart in terms of the design of the level, because it is scripted, right? So we'll see how they handle it.
It's
but yeah,
Naui,
this is one.
by the way.
Naui?
Naui. Naoe.
Naui. I'll try to remember that.
think
Is there
that's
anything else? Yeah, anything else for November you wanted to call out?
Well, look, there's only 5 games announced, and that's Empire of the Ants, which is November 7th, Slitterhead, which is November 8th, Anton Blast, which is November 12th, Assassin's Creed Shadows, November 15th, and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, November 19th. They're the only ones that have been announced for November so far. Nothing else.
Slitterhead is one of the worst names I've ever heard for a video game.
Slitterhead.
It sounds like a...
Don't say it.
Yeah, all right. So that's everything that has a release date for 2024. But there is a bunch of games announced, some very recently, that have 2024 launch windows. Again, we don't know that, you know, I would expect some of these games to launch this year, but there are some on here that I expect to push into 2025. So let's look at the A's. Is there anything in the A's that are standing out? One that...
Yeah, we'll work down. I want to start with the numbers, because the first one on the list is 33 Immortals.
Yeah, what is this one? Thunder Lotus Games, Xbox Series and PC. Tell me about it. What is it?
It's a co-op action roguelite for 33 players.
I do remember. This is the one that looked kind of like Hades, like in terms of gameplay style, and people are like, oh, it's a Hades clone.
So
but
this
isn't.
This was announced last year, and it is a Game Pass game. We don't know when it's going to be released. They did say it was going to be early access this year, like early this year. But now I feel like it's coming a little bit later on. But an action roguelite for 33 players at once, because you're all playing co-op, sounds insane. I just wanted to mention that one right at the start, because I know we're gonna get into some other ones that we're gonna completely forget about it.
Yep, no, that's totally fine. Let's go to A. There isn't anything here that I'm super excited for, but I would expect Avowed might be one that you'd be interested in.
Avowed would be the one to look at. I'm skeptical about a release date this year, but they did say 2024, so I have a feeling it might be in November, maybe. I don't see it as a December, but that's the thing. Avowed's going to be a Game Pass game. So if you're Microsoft and you've got one of your major games that you've touted for a couple of years now, releasing on Game Pass, day and date, day one, you know that. Are you going to release that during the Christmas window where everybody's in the mood to spend money? Or are you going to wait until January after they've spent their money?
That's the thing with Game Pass, right? And not to turn this into a Game Pass discussion, but it changes fundamentally the way that you would release games, right? Because it, you know, old way of thinking would be to not launch in the fall season, right? For games that aren't the big ones. And no offense to Avowed isn't that, right? We're talking Call of Duty, we're talking Assassin's Creed, some of maybe The Last of Us, like those bigger. But even PlayStation's been avoiding that season and been launching in March to June-ish, right?
That's
even
The Last
September.
of Us time frame.
Yeah,
Elden Ring was in February or January.
Yeah, so that was the first shift in terms of like released games that are, you know, pay to play type thing, like as in not in a subscription service. The gambit of timeframes completely went out the window. I remember going back to 2015 when Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain came out in September, and people were like, whoa, like a September game, like the full season usually starts in October onwards. But they did that, and then the Switch came out in March, and then, you know, this all started changing. The Last of Us, this and that, they all launched in different times of the year. So I think that has gone out the window. We're at a point now where you can release a game at any point, any time, and it will sell if it's a good game and it's marketed right and blah, 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 and it finds its audience.
Right.
Now with Game Pass, it's interesting, right? Because the Xbox have often shotgun released their games, like in terms of like release. They'll have 2 or 3 games sitting on top of each other a month apart, a few weeks apart. So whether that's to ensure that you subscribe for a game, you play the game, and then maybe your subscription's coming up to an end, and you're like, oh, but now this is coming out, so I'll keep it, as opposed to doing what I do, and just subscribe for the games I want to play. So maybe we are going to get to like Avowed, and we'll get to these games a bit later, but Avowed, Indiana Jones. I think there was one other in there as well. That were kind of spoken about the Xbox Showcase. They had 2024 on there, Starfield DLC. Maybe they're going to kind of load up September, October, November, December, and have those key months consecutive, which would make sense. Like nothing ever plays out like the ways that we think about it, and it's like, you know, Microsoft's pressuring us to launch these games on other platforms, but you know, if we can show them that we can have consecutive months of growth on Game Pass and that the needle is moving, we may be able to convince them. So maybe they're like, let's do Shattered Space, Indiana Jones, Avowed, maybe not in that order, but back to back to back, keep people subscribed, and then we can go to them and say, look, it's working. Call of Duty as well, Flight Sim as well, like it's working. Let's stick to the path. That is a real tin foil hat theory, because I don't think it's just a timing thing, right? You're in 35 developers. These games are being worked on even prior to your acquisition. Like look at Indiana Jones, for instance. So it's just one of those things where they're already at the same time and would have launched in that same window anyway, regardless if they were owned by Microsoft or not. But out of the ones that don't have a release date, Avowed's the one I still don't get the feeling that it's launching this year, even though they keep saying it. So we shall see. We shall see.
So that's the first one. I'm moving down the list, and it is in alphabetical. There's not a lot there that's really catching my eye as to releasing this year. Besides, I'm getting to D.
Yeah, I've got nothing in B or C.
So I'm up to Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
Yeah. I do want to talk about this one because this was one. Remember we were talking about again. Josh is not a big fantasy Western RPG guy and doesn't like the comedy stuff.
You are a broken record sometimes.
Yeah, I do often say the same things. A kettle's right. Well, the clock's right once, whatever.
Twice a day.
I was going to say kettle's right twice a day. The trailer for this was terrible. The one that was on the Xbox Showcase, where it was like, oh no, like it's doing the Marvel like comedy thing, and I'm like, what is going on? And Dragon Age has always had comedy in it, but what is this? Not to that extent. And then they did the like deep dive gameplay, and then I started hearing previews from people, and this is going to be my first, if it works out launching this year, and if it's reviewed positively, this will not only be my first Dragon Age game, but this is going to be my first real Western fantasy RPG I think I've played in a long time. It's more action focused than the previous Dragon Age games, which is positive for me. I like the art style. I think the art style looks so much better in gameplay than what they showed. Like, I don't know why they showed what they showed at the Xbox Showcase. Like, that was terrible. Previews have been positive, and if BioWare can bring back some of that Mass Effect energy, and
we're talking about the original trilogy Mass Effect energy, not Andromeda, and not and not, what was the other one, Anthem?
No, we're talking Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
If we can bring back some of that energy and some of that hype, maybe this is the game to bring them back type thing. So I won't take any more of your thunder. You had this one as well, so
no, that's all right. I'm just mentioning it as I go down. Because Dragon Age: The Veilguard, as to how that's going to release, if that is going to be a 2024 release, I still feel like we got plenty of space in November, really, and even with Avowed there. And Avowed is one of those games that I always look at with a Game Pass glasses on, because when I'm looking at anything that's going to be coming out day one on Game Pass, it's like, okay, well, what other games are coming out around that time that's going to draw somebody to either play games on Game Pass, or if they don't have it like yourself, to buy it for that month? Like, what's the draw card? Are you going to buy Game Pass and play this game, or is there another game that's releasing as an individual that you're going to pay for instead? So that's where Avowed comes into that.
And I do think Dragon Age will fall into 2024. I think there's too much already here.
I feel like it's okay. I feel like November's still clean
actually,
at the moment.
Yeah, you're right. November. Yeah. Or even December. There's nothing in December.
Yeah, nothing in December at the moment. So
yeah, December, early December. Let's say that
because there's no Game Pass worries. The next game that I've got here does have Game Pass worries, and that's Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Where do you fit that? And that's the same argument that we've got with Avowed, because Indiana Jones, when that comes out, that's one that I'm going to be playing day one. So is that coming around the same time as Assassin's Creed? Because are people going to pick one or the other? What's the go there? And this is probably the type of thinking that Microsoft does have to do. As you were saying, they haven't really nobody's really had to worry about when you're releasing a game for the last couple of years, at least since COVID, because you can release it at any time. And if the game is successful and people like the game, it will do well. Even a game like Lethal Company on PC, it was such a small indie game, and that blew up for about a month. Helldivers has done really well. It's still going well, really, for the type of game that it is. It doesn't matter when you launch it, if the game is of quality. So when you look at Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which is meant to be one of their big first-party IPs, basically, where does that fit? Is it going to have its own month, in a sense, where it's like you are subscribing to Game Pass for this month, so October, because you know that Indiana Jones is coming that month? Or is it one of those ones where you've got to have, Indiana Jones and Avowed and something else, so that way people aren't going off and buying The Last of Us remake?
Yeah. This is where I'm going to predict. This is where my gut is telling me.
All right.
September is going to be Starfield Shattered Space.
Yep.
That is my gut feeling. I don't know why. September just feels right.
Because it starts with the letter S.
Maybe. And it'd be interesting to see maybe what platforms it comes out to as well.
I think that's the big one. That's the big one. What platforms?
Yeah. And again, we won't talk about that here. But September, I would say Starfield, right? So you got Starfield in September. You get probably a bump into September in terms of people returning to Game Pass to play it. October, I would suspect we get... See, the rumor was Avowed was coming earlier.
Black Ops is coming October.
Is it?
October 25th.
Oh, sorry, yes. So October's Call of Duty.
And that's at the end. That's at the end of October, though.
Yeah. So
you have a draw
I could
card at
see...
the start.
Yeah, I could see maybe if Avowed is launching, I could see Avowed coming in October.
What about Indiana Jones?
See, Indiana Jones, all rumors indicated that was a December game. Like it was Christmas season, which I can kind of see because Indy is a bit more of a old character. I don't know, maybe you get it out and retail a bit on the stores before Christmas. Oh, Indiana Jones, and you get someone to buy it.
Get that Christmas
I think this is... Yeah, this game's obviously was developed in a post or pre-Game Pass world. So I can kind of see this working in December, where it's an Indiana Jones game on the shelf would have sold, or the idea would have been it would sell at Christmas time.
Yeah.
So I would suspect, Indiana Jones lands in December. Maybe now that I say that, maybe November needs to be Avowed and Flight Sim. And October, all right. So this is it. This is the ultimate thought process. September, Shattered Space. October, just Call of Duty. That's enough.
Just Call of Duty. And that's at the end of the month, by the way.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, the Shattered Space stuff's going to be huge, right, in terms of scope and stuff.
I don't think Starfield pulls that as many players as we think.
But with Game Pass, if you subscribe on the 29th, is it to the 29th of the following month?
Yes.
Okay. So if Shattered Space launches end of September,
then you're covered.
Then you're covered for Call of Duty in late September. If it
launches early to mid-September.
Yeah. So I'm going to say late September for Shattered Space.
Okay.
So the 27th, 28th, whatever. Then Call of Duty in October. then Avowed in November, and then Indiana Jones in December.
Yeah, because if Avowed is in November and it's early November, because it has to be early November, which is going to be a week or two after Black Ops, because then you've got Flight Simulator coming November 19th. Hell, it could even be the same time.
Yeah,
those are probably
games.
Matter. Those are probably games you could overlap, and then you reckon indie in December. Would you say early December, or would you say like a week before Christmas?
I reckon the 15th, like in that middle period.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, that's Indiana Jones. This is one I'm excited to play. Like regardless of platforms, I'll be playing this on PC. Quick, I guess, just future stamping this this podcast. Do you suspect Indiana Jones will come to PlayStation 5?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. It just has this feeling about it.
I feel
kind
like
of got that Blade energy where it's like, you're not really putting Xbox on this, and it's a franchise where I know, like we saw in the Insomniac leak, that the fees for having, I know Indiana Jones isn't Spider-Man, but the split that Sony has to do for Marvel, the game has to sell a lot more than it would have if it wasn't a Marvel IP to make money, right? Because they have to split whatever that split looks like. I do wonder if Blade, I definitely think Blade's coming to PlayStation day and date, or will be by the time it comes out. But Indiana Jones is just weird. I don't know, I've just got this feeling with Indy. Like I do think, we had the first 4 games this year being, what was it? Hi-Fi, Sea of Thieves, Grounded, and Pentiment. I kind of have the feeling games 5 and 6 could potentially be
Starfield and Indy.
Starfield and maybe Indy.
Well,
not maybe at launch, Indy, but I just... Anyway, that's just
I feel like
a gut feeling.
Indiana Jones is the type of IP that precedes Xbox. It precedes PlayStation. Like it's from the 80s.
Jesus, yeah.
So I think because of that, there is that draw card initially for Xbox. I do think it's going to be a timed exclusive. I think it's going to be maybe 6 months at the absolute minimum. I think it could be maybe even a year, and we'll see it next Christmas for another rush on PlayStation. Like, if they really wanted to hold out, they could. I don't think they will, because of the talk that's coming out of Xbox in getting some of these games onto other platforms. Indie feels like that sort of game that would make the switch over. And if that's the case, you don't want to move over too quickly, because you still want people to play it on Game Pass and to be part of that Game Pass ecosystem. And then all of a sudden, with all those other new releases, you're sticking around. But you still want it where it's still relevant enough to then move it across. If it takes 2 years for Indie to make it over to PlayStation, I feel like that's almost a waste. That's way too long. So I think that 6 to 12 months, maybe mid next year, like if it comes out December, then the mid next year to December next year, I feel like that's your sweet spot.
Yeah, I definitely think if it does happen, it will be like 6 months or around about March time.
3 months.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be longer than that.
You reckon 3 to 6 months?
3 to 6 months. And you got to think too as well, like the games that have come across, there seems to be a thing with ZeniMax in particular, right? Like Hi-Fi Rush, Tango Gameworks, Bethesda, Doom, id Software announced coming to PS5, Bethesda. So there is that. But anyway, let's move on. Anything else jumping out? I've got one in M, which is pretty obvious.
Yeah, I know you're going to talk about that. Let's do it. Metal Gear Solid.
So Metal Gear Solid Delta. We spoke about that to death.
That's the right one. Okay. It was either that or the Power Rangers one. So
both of them. Metal Gear was on top of the list. Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater. We're not going to talk too much about this. I'm super excited. Snake Eater is my favorite game of all time.
You reckon
it's in my top 3. I could see it launching in December. This is another one, right, where it's like Metal Gear and it's on the shelf and it's like, it's Metal Gear. I can see it launching in December.
See, so PlayStation initially made the first announcement, and then it was part of the Xbox showcase for the most recent trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the first question would be, who's got the marketing rights?
Maybe no one. Maybe Konami's doing the marketing and they're just going to whoever's going to pay them for...
If that's the case, if Konami is overseeing that and they're not working with one or the other, then it's almost irrelevant where they launch it, because then they don't care about competition. So, for example, if we're talking December, they don't care that they're going to have competition with Indie, or they're not going to. They don't care about Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Metal Gear's
You got
going
to
to be
back
in its
yourself,
own.
right? You
Yeah,
got to be like,
exactly.
well, ours is bigger than this, or not, or we don't. Let's get away from Grand Theft Auto. Like that stuff will still happen. But I just, I feel bad for any game that's launching in and around Grand Theft Auto.
Which we don't
I've
even
just
know.
got the
Imagine if you've got that penciled in as a release date for like 12 months, and then Grand Theft Auto is like, yeah, we're going to release the day before.
Maybe that's why we're not getting a lot of
Just
release
do a
dates.
Breath of the Wild. Like Horizon gets
Um,
screwed every time. So when's the next Horizon game coming out?
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid Delta. Yeah, so that's one. I'll quickly call out. Not that I'm super interested in playing it, but I'm interested to see how it goes. Lego Horizon.
Yep.
Just to see how that all shapes out with Switch.
It.
The other game in M is obviously the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Readers Rewind. PlayStation beat 'em up.
It'll come. It'll come
Power
out.
Rangers beat 'em up
Probably
on
September,
PlayStation,
October,
Xbox.
somewhere in the middle.
This could come anywhere. It's going to be a digital game. I don't really care. Like just whenever it's ready. All right, let's move. Anything else jumping out as we work down the list?
We're going down the list. There's nothing else that I really want to talk too much about.
I've got nothing.
Yeah, I'm going through them all. There's a lot of mobile games I've noticed actually on this list, which I'm not too interested in. Probably T. Lord of the Rings: Return to Moria.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to Xbox. I'm interested to see how that goes. Do you know?
I'm more interested to see how Golem goes on Switch, to be honest.
Oh, it will do shit. But do you know about Lord of the Rings: Return to Moria?
No.
Okay. Do you know Valheim?
Yes.
So Valheim, or even like, basically, if you want to go super simple, Minecraft, where you're building a village, you're getting resources, crafting, and all that sort of stuff, upgrading your stuff, and then defending against enemies. So that's what Lord of the Rings: Return to Moria is, except you're dwarves in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Lord of the Rings skin over the top. It's on PC. It's on the Epic Store. Looked interesting when it first came out. Now it's coming to Xbox. It's not coming to PlayStation.
They got us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I wanted to mention that, because there's no PlayStation release.
Interesting. Okay.
But
then that's weird. When you click into, I think that might just be an error on the link, because when you click into the game, it says platforms PS5, Xbox Series, and PC.
And then initial release date, 24th of October 2023. So because it came out last year on PC, but I find that weird. Yeah. I think you're
I think it might just be
Game Informer saying Xbox but no PS5.
PlayStation tax. Yes, we are using the Game Informer list. But that's pretty much everything that we're excited for launching in 2024. But let us know in the comment section what you're excited to play. Tell us why we're wrong about certain games and certain theories and so on and so forth.
What have we missed?
No,
that's the question. That's the question you answer.
Okay.
Put it in the comments. I'm sure there's a whole range. There's about 100 and something games here, about 150 games that we haven't even touched on. If there's any that you think we should be talking about, put it in the comments.
Someone's going to get angry that we didn't mention YSX Nordics. Whatever that
You just picked that because it's the last game on the list.
Yeah, and it's got a weird name. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you're excited to play. If there was anything we missed, plenty of great games coming into 2024. All right, moving on. So let's talk about what games we've been playing recently as we wrap up today's episode. Sean, we'll start with you. What have you been playing?
I've been playing a couple of different games. I've touched on a few of the retro games. So I've had a couple of mates over the last couple of days just to like chill out and hang out and that sort of stuff. And I've put on a couple of games on the GameCube, like Zoo Cube. You remember that one? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, Batman Begins, based off the film.
Oh my god, yep.
Yeah. So I've been putting in a couple of games, some of the older games, retro games, and giving them a go, because we're now getting to that quiet part where, there's a whole bunch of games that are on Game Pass. That's fine and all that sort of stuff, but I've got a whole library of games right behind me that I want to play through. And so that's what I've been doing. Another one that I've been doing a couple of hours every night, is Super Pokemon Rumble on the 3DS, which is the sequel to that WiiWare game. You like the little Pokemon toys with the little keys, and you wind them up, and then you've got to go through levels. You haven't played it, have you?
No.
No, you got no idea what's going on. All right, so
No.
that's on the 3DS. Um, so that's what I've been playing at the moment. Basically, touching on, those older games that I've got. What about yourself, Josh? What are you playing at the moment?
Yeah, I'm playing a kind of a smattering of things. I kept my promise, so I've downloaded. I haven't touched. There's actually a lot of things I want to play all at once, and it's stressing me out. So I've downloaded and purchased the deluxe edition for Alan Wake 2. So that gives me the 3 episodic DLC, um, for Alan Wake 2. So
Yep.
I've got that downloaded, ready to go. I just need to clear out what I'm playing at the moment, so then I can move on to it. So that's there and ready. I've also downloaded Doom and Doom Eternal
Yep. You
off
reckon
the
you're gonna
back
get through
of
both back to back?
maybe not back to back, but I've got
Yeah.
them downloaded. So I'm just gonna. That's
It's a
gonna
lot of
force me
Doom.
to. Yeah, my OCD will force me to play it because it's on my home screen. So I'm going to at least give it a fair crack.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try. So that's there in the wakes happening. I finished Evil West, played it on the Portal. Still playing through Sea of Stars on the Portal, Hi-Fi Rush. I'm very close to finishing at this point. But really, what I've been delving into is a return to one of my favorite 3D platformers,
Yeah.
and that is Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoon. So, PlayStation 2 game developed by Insomniac. No, not Insomniac, Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch.
Um, and is part of the new wave of PS2 games coming over to PS5. This is the first Sly Cooper game, so it is uh, very different to Sly 2 and 3. But I've got a soft spot. Sly 2 is my favorite, but I've got a soft spot for Thievius Raccoonus. So I am making my way through that and having a jolly old time. It's my new Portal game. It's funny, besides Hi-Fi Rush, the other 2 games I'm playing, I'm doing basically exclusively on the Portal.
So with the with
Yeah.
Sly Cooper, actually, and here's a question, because I've got Sly Cooper on the PlayStation 2.
Mm-hmm.
Is the PS4/PS5 version, the digital version, worth it? Would you pay that? Like, do you think I should be paying that extra? I think it's like $15-$20 or whatever, and play it on the newer console, or is it effectively the same game? May as well play it on the older one while I've got it.
Yeah, so it was interesting. I was half expecting the HD port that Bluepoint
On
did for Sly
PS3?
Cooper for PS3.
Yeah.
If you've got that, I would probably say play that. If not, the benefits of playing it on PS5 is obviously 1, convenience. 2, you get trophies. There's a full trophy set that's different to the trophies that were in the HD remake or
Okay.
remaster. There is the kind of very similar to the Switch, the save and rewind functions that
Yep.
was there on a lot of the retro Switch games. That is there as well for this. Not that you really need it, but it is there.
Yeah.
And they're the main things. Besides that, it is very much the old game. So it's really just up to you. For me, for $15, if you really wanted to play Sly, I mean, now I've got it digitally on a console that will carry on to the future, whether that's PS6 will be available
Just
and
like the
so on.
PS3, yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. So my PS3, you just reminded me, by the way. So my PS3 has died. My original fat PS3 that I've had since I was 2000. I think I got mine in 2007. So I was in year 7.
All right.
It was a big deal when my dad came home with the PS3 because for those who don't remember, in Australia, PS3 was very, very, very expensive. I think
$1,000.
the launch model that was backwards compatible, which I didn't have, I did eventually get, but then it died. Those were known to get the yellow light of death and just overheat and die. But that was $1,000. I don't remember how much. I had the 40 gig fat console.
40 gig fat was $7.99.
Yeah, I was going to say that was still $800
Or actually,
easily.
yeah, $7.99.
Yeah, so in Australia, right? Infamously $5.99 in the US. That was the big $5.99. Anyway, So I've had this thing, like I said, from then. It's been from my parents' house to my grandparents' house to our first home to now here. I was turning it on once a month, like starting an old car and letting it run for a bit, and would play around. And I think I went back and played Metal Gear Solid 3 was the last thing I played, I think maybe a year or two ago, as in like played a full game. Um, and like, as you know, this thing was treated like royalty. Had the fans cleaned. I would go in and clean it and do all those things. But anyway, it died on me. So what we discovered was the problem, which is probably a good thing, is it seems to be a thermal paste issue, and it's just cutting off as it's turning on. So thankfully, it wasn't like a yellow light. That usually means like a system malfunction and it's gone. That's what happened to my backwards compatible one. But the issue I had is I went on to full like Naomi's like I acted as if someone died, not like hyperventilating. I'm not going to over exaggerate for the podcast. I was literally just really down in the dumps because I'm like I think PS3 is my favorite, and I've got so much memories on this console and the games that I played on it, and like that generation was the generation where um I think I became more aware of the broader industry, and that's when I started listening to podcasts. That's where you get the data, and like that's why I've got a pretty much
It's your origin
uh,
story.
it's my origin story. Like PS3 onwards, I think my knowledge of games and the way games are made and how games are released and release dates and all those things that you hear me talk about on this show all stem from PS3. Like I was there with PS2 and but I was a kid, right? So you were playing the games that you got. Where PS3 is when I by the end of it, I had my first retail job. We worked together at the time. Yeah, I just had a lot of very fond memories with the console. So anyway, so that all has happened. So again, friend of the show, Vincent Candello, has my PS3 as we speak. He's going to perform open heart surgery.
Oh yeah.
I know you're listening, Vinny, because I know we were chatting about this. You do listen. So I've left it in his hands. I actually went around and did some research. I spoke to you, Sean, about getting it repaired.
Yep.
Had spoke to some repairers here locally in Australia, and just by the nature of the console, the fat PS3, there's so many layers you need to get through to get to the motherboard where the thermal paste needs to be removed and cleaned. It was going to cost me hundreds of dollars to the point where it would have been cheaper to buy another one that was working. I was willing, if it was comparable, to pay the amount to keep my original PS3. That's how much I was willing to do it. But I haven't even got quotes back yet. That's how long it was taking because not a lot of people are doing it now. Everyone's moved to like PS4 onwards. So the process of repairing it's actually quite simple from my understanding. I watched like a full-on...
You watch a YouTube video and you're an expert?
Well, the actual process is literally just wiping the thing and putting new paste on and putting it... The hardest thing is actually getting to it and putting it back together. So Vinny's done this, our friend of the show, Vincent Gandello, has done this before with other systems. So I have entrusted my beloved PS3 to him. I have multiple PS3s.
Did you back up the save files?
I've already done that. The hard drive's been taken out and swapped. I've got another PS3 running. It was like I moved on from a bad relationship quite quickly, but this one stinks. So it stings. So I'm hoping that I can have it returned to me in working order. But yeah, that took me. I gotta admit, that was like, man, they really need to get like it. Just reinforced the message in me. They really need to get backwards compatibility sorted. Like, because regardless of how well you treat your consoles, the PS3 and 360 ones are the worst in sense of moving forward 4, 5, Xbox One series, all backwards compatible, right? PS1 and PS2, even if they have faults, and the same with older consoles, NES, Super Nintendo, they're very basic in terms of like, you literally take the cover off and the board's there, and if you've got someone that can fix it, you can fix it. These PS3 360 consoles, where it was like the first connected to the internet, if they die, we lose a lot of games. Now, I know Xbox has a really good backwards compatible system with Series and Xbox One. It isn't perfect. Not everything's there, but they're doing a much better job than what PlayStation's doing, who basically, you stream your games if you live in the US, and if you live in Australia, you get nothing. We really need a solution. Like, I've got probably close to 100 PS3 games that I've purchased myself. Like, And these are games I would have paid full price for at launch and played. Like I've got so much memories there. So get your shit sorted. Let's get it sorted. Because there's games you don't want to lose to time on that console. Like we still can't play Infamous 1 or 2 on a modern hardware. We can't play Killzone 3 and others. Resistance, like all those games, PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. But there is like some really good games that are lost on there. So yeah, that was my week. A little disappointing, but not to end on a downer. But
No, that's all right. I understand, especially with your backwards compatibility talk. So like I've got a whole bunch of Xbox 360 games behind me, and it got to the stage where I've got a little red sticker on the ones that are backwards compatible. So that way I know that anything that doesn't have that red sticker, I have to play on the Xbox 360 or the original Xbox. So the same with those ones there. And that's why I've actually got two Xbox 360s. It's not the reason why I've got like 6 original Xboxes, but it's why I actually went out and bought another Xbox 360 in case the one that I'm currently using dies and I'm not able to get a new one. Because at least then, if I can get through those games or whatever games that I want to play, then I can say, all right, I can move on from that console. I can move to the next generation, or if another game comes out of the blue, I have the ability to be able to play that. And game preservation, which was mentioned during the Xbox showcase, which was really intriguing about how they want to continue to build upon that. That's something that we as an industry still haven't got a hold over. Yes, there is forms of preservation. Nintendo have their forms. PlayStation have some forms. Xbox looks like they're trying to do their best. PC is where it's at the end of the day because of how malleable it is to be able to get those sorts of games on there. But even recently, there was a game archive that you can get. So basically, they get ROMs of these old games that are all discontinued, 20, 30 years old, and you can go to this website, you can download them and play them. These companies aren't making money off these games. And that website got a cease and desist because of having this collection, which kind of begs the question, well, if I can't consume this form of entertainment, these games, legally, how am I supposed to go back and do it? And we have the same question with TV shows and films, that even older ones. If there's a 1960s Elvis Presley film, if it isn't up-res or on a service nowadays, and you don't have a VHS of it because they didn't make one, and therefore you don't have a DVD, how are you going to watch these films? And so I think that's, especially the fact that we're in the digital age over the last 100 years, that's the big question. And games they're still a long way behind compared to film and TV. Like we're getting some sort of preservation in the National Archives and that sort of thing. That's starting to happen. But at what stage are we able to say, okay, well, this game is done and dusted? If it's a multiplayer game and the servers are off, okay, understood. But if it's a single player game that you don't need any sort of online connection, why isn't there an ability to be able to collect this game, play this game, even if nobody's making any money off it, because nobody is?
And that's the thing. All the older stuff's fine. Like you can emulate, and I think emulation for these things are fine for these systems, like NES, Super Nintendo, Master System, even all the way up to PS2 to some degree. Because there isn't a way. You shouldn't be expected. That Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo have made their money off those games. If I went and bought a PS2 and Sly Cooper, Sony's not getting $1. They've already made that dollar from when those things were originally purchased. So, like, there really needs to be a solution, and PS3 is probably the main one, right? Because of the way that console's architecture was with Cell, and people can't port those things easily. That's why I've got the PS1 Mini, and I've just got a thumb drive in there with all the PS1 games, because I'm like, well, and I buy physical, I've got PS1 games, but I like the fact that I've got a modern piece of tech that I can do that pretty easily and plug it to the TV and play. So hopefully two things. Hopefully Sony fix that issue, because like, even with all this love I was giving Sly, right? If I wanted to go back and play Sly 4, which wasn't made by Sucker Punch, it was Senzaru, but it was a really good game, and I was thinking about it. That's actually why I turned the PS3 on, actually. I was going to install it and get that ready, because I was in a bit of a Sly mood. no pun intended, and then it died. So like that game's lost to time now.
Because it
Really?
wasn't a digital release.
It was physical. It was one of those
Have
cross
physical.
buy with Vita, but it's a PS3 only game. And Vita, which in itself is even more harder to get and play.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully we get that resolved. I'll keep you guys posted and update you on
If it ever
my PS3's whereabouts.
changes. Oh, the PS3
Yeah.
updates. Yeah. Backwards compatibility and game preservation. Oh, yeah. Okay. Good luck.
I think we will get there. I think with like Sony and PS3, I think we will get to a point where they find a solution. But from my understanding and on listening to these guys talk about, it's very difficult, and every game uses the cell architecture different. So you can't just flick a switch and have PS3 games. You have to go in individually and bring them. But start with the games that aren't everywhere else. Like you don't need to do Uncharted. Like Uncharted is part of the collection. It's this and that. We've got it. Start with Resistance, start with Killzone, start with Sly. Like,
start with your other first-party games, and then you can move to third-party if necessary.
Yeah, 100%. And there is a lot of really good third-party stuff in there too. Like, and again, Xbox have done such a great job. Not 100%, like it's not perfect, but
it's a lot better
you can
than
play
Nintendo
Final Fantasy
and PlayStation.
13. Yeah, you can play Final Fantasy 13 if you wanted to. You can't do that on PlayStation. So there you go. Xbox got a Square Enix exclusive, and no one even knows it. But anyway, so that's been episode 5 of Busy Playing Something. We have ended on a bit of a somber note, but we'll I'll provide updates. Vinny will send me photos, and I'll share that with you all. But thank you for listening. Episode 5. I've been your host, Joshua LaRosa. Again, Sean Harron's here with me as well. You can find us on YouTube at Busy Playing Something. On YouTube, I've just said that. On Spotify and Apple Podcast feeds, again, search Busy Playing Something. Find us on Twitter at Joshua LaRosa, at Holly DePrawn. Thank you so much for listening. If you have enjoyed it, give it a like, and please let us know in the comments what games you're looking forward to playing in 2024. It's been a pleasure, Sean. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime.
Have a fantastic day, and bring PS3 native backwards compatibility to PS5. Thank you.
We'll just keep saying it until they get it done.
Yeah.